Ag Week weather is sponsored by Bremer Bank. Connect with a banker today at bremer.com.
Will it be a chilly Halloween weekend? Here's John with our Agri-weather outlook.
The first big winter storm system to affect the northern plains, in other words, places other than the Rocky Mountains, has happened this past week into especially North Dakota. And that has definitely brought in much colder weather. Typically, cold weather follows a big snowstorm. Those early snowstorms definitely do that. For one thing, suddenly the ground is covered in snow. And that snow, of course, reflecting whatever sunlight is coming through, tends to create a pool of cold air that can even impact areas other than those snow-covered areas. So we've got cold and snow-covered ground to talk about how long this will linger, because it's kind of at that late October, early November period. It's conceivable this could be the start of winter in some areas, although it could also melt away. So we'll talk about that. Meanwhile, many areas of the central and eastern part of the Midwest are looking fairly dry, with some ideal weather for the wrap-up of corn bean harvest over here in this part of the country. Jet streams did kind of merge to form a couple of little waves to generate the North Dakota snow last week. And now with that northern jet stream so far south, we've got some pretty cold weather into the northern plains. As that begins to retreat, it will be primarily the snow-covered areas that remain below or right near freezing. The light blue areas are going to be pretty cool, and that's going to mean a lot of the northern tier. Midwest looking fairly cool. Even this week, with the southern jet going so far south, you're seeing some fairly cool air drop down at least into the mid-south. That'll bring some scattered frosts into these areas. Nothing, of course, for the real deep south. That will continue to be fairly mild. The middle west will begin to warm up with a bit of ridging toward the end of this week. That looks like it'll be temporary, with that warm weather headed east and pulling back some warm air from the Gulf of Mexico. Hot weather for the most part in South Florida, coast of Texas, and at least at times in the desert southwest, the southern part. As we get into the second week, which is well into November now, we're still seeing a lot of cold weather lingering across North Dakota, the northern Great Lakes, and northern New England. That's near or below freezing weather. The rest of this just cool, and the major jet stream still being fairly split. Looks like a fairly non-stormy weather pattern. For this week, I do expect a modest amount of precipitation along the East Coast, rain south, snow in the north. Most of the Middle West looks fairly dry, and the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies, Canadian Rockies, will get some precipitation. This looks like lighter snow first few days of November into parts of North Dakota, Manitoba. And then after that, it looks mostly pretty dry in the midsection of the country. The far southeast looks wet, and the Pacific Northwest and Northern Rockies will continue to pile up that snow.